Hey everyone, happy Tony season. Today I thought it would be a very fun idea to go through all of the nominees for this year's Tony Awards and pick out who I would choose to win each category. I just want to be very clear, I am not an official Tony voter. I just thought this would be something that we could do for fun, and of course leave me your thoughts in the comment section below. There are a few shows that I have not been able to see this season yet. I do hope to in the future. It takes a lot of time and a lot of money to go and see these shows, and I feel very fortunate for the productions that I've gotten to see this year. And after all, that is the entire reason why I've started this YouTube channel in the first place. Broadway is expensive and there are a lot of options, and I'm here to help you figure out which shows may be worth seeing and which shows are not. And I'm so excited to see that this community has just been growing. I am now celebrating 400 subscribers to my YouTube channel, which I cannot thank you all enough, whether you started with me from the very beginning or you just found my channel and are here now. Thank you so much for your support. With that, let's get into the 2025 nominations for Best Musical. In this category, we have Buena Vista Social Club, Dead Outlaw, Death Becomes Her, Maybe Happy Ending, and Operation Mincemeat. I'm going to give it to Maybe Happy Ending. I saw this show early on in the season and it has still stuck with me. I love that it is the most original musical out of all of these. 3 of them are based off of history. 1 is a movie. So I'm giving it to Maybe Happy Ending, and I really hope to see it win. Next, we have Best Play. English, The Hills of California, John Proctor is the villain, Oh Mary, and Purpose. All right, so this category stumped me a little bit. I do think that Oh Mary is going to win, but English and Purpose are both Pulitzer-winning plays. So I have to factor that into my decision here. Also, Purpose recently just won the New York Drama Critics Circle Award, and I'm already considering Oh Mary for a different category. So I'm going to give my vote to Purpose to win Best Play this year. I really enjoyed Purpose when I got to see it. I didn't get to review it. I did think that Act 2 was a little bit longer than it needed to be, but I loved the performances and I loved the show so much. So I'm going to give it Best Play. I mean, personally, if I could choose my favorite show out of all of these, it would be English. However, that show is not on Broadway anymore. And the purpose of the Tony Awards is not only to celebrate shows of the Broadway season, but it's also to sell more tickets. So I'm going to give it to a show that is currently playing right now. Next up, we have Best Revival of a Musical. Floyd Collins, Gypsy, Pirates, the Penzance Musical, and Sunset Boulevard. So I have not been able to see Pirates, but I think Sunset Boulevard is taking it. It is such a departure from the original styling of the stage musical, and I just think it is sort of the show of the year. Best Revival of a Play, Eureka Day, Romeo and Juliet, Thornton Wilder's Our Town, and Yellowface. Eureka Day is going to get my vote. I think its biggest competition in this category is Yellowface. I enjoyed Yellowface, but I liked Eureka Day a little bit more, especially that one scene that took place on the Zoom call. Hilarious. And I like the commentary that it was making, so I'm going to give it to Eureka Day. Next, we have Best Performance by an Actor in a Leading Role in a Musical. Darren Criss for Maybe Happy Ending, Andrew Durand for Dead Outlaw, Tom Francis, Sunset Boulevard, Jonathan Groff, Just in Time. I have not yet seen that production. James Monroe Iglehart for A Wonderful World, the Louis Armstrong musical, and Jeremy Jordan for Floyd Collins. Like I said, I have not yet seen Jonathan Groff, but I do hear rumblings that he is a frontrunner for this category, so I'll keep that in mind. But based off of the shows that I have seen, I'm torn between 3. I'm torn between Tom Francis, James Monroe Iglehart, and Jeremy Jordan. I'm going to give my vote to Jeremy Jordan. He's been a working actor for years now. I think that he is one of the saving graces of this production. He does so much with a character that has to be physically restrained for almost the entire duration of that show. I mean, he and Andrew Durand have that in common, but Jeremy Jordan is still emoting and singing the entire time. Tom Francis does very well in Sunset Boulevard, and I do think that ultimately the decision is going to be between him and Jonathan Groff. It's just, for me personally, I very much emotionally connected to Jeremy Jordan's Floyd Collins more than I did to Tom Francis's character in Sunset Boulevard. And James Monroe Iglehart already has a Tony Award, so I'm sticking with Jeremy Jordan. Let's move on to Best Performance by an Actress in a Leading Role in a Musical. Megan Hilty for Death Becomes Her, Audra McDonald for Gypsy, Jasmine Amy Rogers for Boop the Musical, Nicole Scherzinger for Sunset Boulevard, and Jennifer Samard for Death Becomes Her. I do think that Jennifer Samard and Megan Hilty are going to split their votes. That's sort of the risk that a production has when two of their actors is nominated in the same category. And where is Helen J. Shen? I mean, I know that the categories are limited to 5 unless there is a tie, which is why you will see in leading actor and featured actor, there are 6, is because 2 of the placements tied in the votes. But I think Helen J. Shen and Darren Criss are equally responsible for the success of Maybe Happy Ending, and I really would have liked to have seen her recognized here. I mean, however, that being said, in my review of Maybe Happy Ending, I did say that the performer who would most likely be nominated for that show would be Darren Criss. So I'm not surprised, but I am a little disappointed. And also Natasha Hodgson for Operation Mincemeat. I thought she was incredible and very deserving. I think the two of them, Helen J. Shen and Natasha Hodgson, were sort of in the running for the spot that ultimately went to Jasmine Amy Rogers for Boop the Musical. I think Jasmine Amy Rogers is well deserved, but usually there's that one spot that is reserved for sort of like an ingenue or someone new to Broadway. But I think the race really comes down to Nicole Scherzinger and Audra McDonald. People are so torn between the two of these performers. However, I do think that Nicole Scherzinger, the momentum is slightly more going in her direction. If you watch my review of both of these revivals, you'll know that I actually found Audra McDonald to have the more consistent performance. Rose is such a difficult character. I think Audra McDonald really streamlined the role of Rose for me more than I've ever really seen before. So I'm inclined to celebrate that. But Nicole Scherzinger, on the other hand, I loved her performance in Act 2. When we got to As If We Never Said Goodbye, I was in tears. I just thought she was so incredible. I really love how Nicole portrayed that feeling of lucidness. However, in Act 1, I did feel that there were some choices that I understood. I understood why those choices were made, but I just don't feel that they were 100% committed to, at least in the performance that I saw. So I'm very torn between these two, but ultimately I'm going to give it to Nicole Scherzinger. I think it's her year. I love Audra McDonald in this role, but I think that holding the record for the amount of Tonys held by an individual and now the record for total nominations, I think that's reward in and of itself. So she's good. Next, we have Best Performance by an Actor in a Leading Role in a Play. George Clooney for Good Night and Good Luck, Cole Escola for Oh Mary, John Michael Hill for Purpose, Daniel Day Kim for Yellowface, Harry Lennox for Purpose, and Lewis McCartney for Stranger Things: The First Shadow. I think the momentum is leading towards Cole Escola for Oh Mary. If you watched my review of Oh Mary, you will know that I saw Betty Gilpin in the role of Mary, so I did not see Cole Escola. I just feel that Cole Escola is going to run away with this category, not only because of their performance here, but also because they wrote the show and it's nominated for all of these rewards. It is such a huge hit on Broadway right now. However, Harry Lennox in Purpose is phenomenal. I really enjoyed his performance. And if Cole Escola was not here, I would have given the vote to Harry Lennox. Moving on to Best Performance by an Actress in a Leading Role in a Play. Laura Donnelly for The Hills of California, Mia Farrow for The Roommate, LaTanya Richardson Jackson for Purpose, Sadie Sink for John Proctor is the Villain, and Sarah Snook for The Picture of Dorian Gray. I have not seen Sarah Snook in The Picture of Dorian Gray yet, but it's definitely going to her. And I think if I were to see it before nominations came out, I would still agree that she's going to be the winner. How do you play 26 characters as one person and not get awarded for doing something like that? Laura Donnelly for The Hills of California was so excellent. And if Sarah Snook was not here, my vote would go to Laura Donnelly. I think it would be between the two of them if The Hills of California were still on Broadway. But now, because that's not on Broadway, I do think Sarah Snook is just going to run away with this category. Best Performance by an Actor in a Featured Role in a Musical. Brooks Ashmanskas for Smash, Jeb Brown for Dead Outlaw, Danny Burstein for Gypsy, Jack Malone for Operation Mincemeat, and Taylor Trench for Floyd Collins. Jeb Brown really surprised me in Dead Outlaw. I'm not sure why he's not being considered for lead actor. I thought that he and Andrew Durand were very much the leads in that show, but ultimately, I'm going to give it to Jack Malone. Jack plays so many characters that range from zany to heartbreaking and might just be my favorite performance in a musical this year. And I think many people will agree that Jack's performance of Dear Bill in the show is enough reason to give him the Tony Award. He's that good in this production, so I'd love to see him win this category. Best performance by an actress in a featured role in a musical: Natalie Venetia Belkin for Buena Vista Social Club, Julia Niddle for Dead Outlaw, Gracie Lawrence, Just in Time, Justina Machado for Real Women Have Curves, Joy Woods for Gypsy. All right, this category kind of upset me because I was really looking forward to Grace Hodgett Young being here. I wanted her to be nominated so bad. If Grace Hodgett Young was in this category, she would get my vote to win. I thought she was incredible in Sunset Boulevard. I loved her performance as Betty. It was so good, and I think very deserving of a spot. I have not seen Just in Time, so I can't speak to Gracie Lawrence's performance. And Joy Woods as Louise and Gypsy. I'm glad that they're sticking to the tradition of nominating Louise in this category, but I think I would have liked to have seen Jordan Tyson here, who played June. I thought she was phenomenal and perfectly cast in that role. She was so good. But out of all of the performers that we do have here, I'm going to give my vote to Justina Machado for Real Women Have Curves, the musical. I thought she was great in the role, and I really would love to see Real Women Have Curves win something. I loved that show, but it wasn't nominated for Best Musical. So I'm giving it to Justina Machado. I think it's going to come down to either her or Natalie Venetia Belkin for Buena Vista Social Club. I enjoyed her performance as well. All right, now we have Best Performance by an Actor in a Featured Role in a Play: Glenn Davis for Purpose, Gabriel Ebert for John Proctor is the Villain, Francis Chu for Yellowface, Bob Odenkirk for Glengarry Glen Ross, Conrad Ricamora for Oh Mary. I have not yet seen Glengarry Glen Ross, and I did not see Conrad Ricamora in Oh Mary, but I think it's going to Francis Chu no matter what. I thought that his performance in Yellowface was awesome. He was my favorite character in that show. I'd really like to see him win. I know Yellowface is not playing on Broadway anymore, but I just think his performance was that good. I think he's going to get the award, and I'm giving him my vote. Best Performance by an Actress in a Featured Role in a Play: Tala Ash for English, Jessica Hecht, Eureka Day, Merjan Nishat for English, Fina Straza for John Proctor is the Villain, and Kara Young for Purpose. I'm so happy with all of the nominations here. Fina Straza and John Proctor is the Villain was so good. Maybe my favorite character on stage right now. I really liked her. I thought her character was fascinating. I'm also very happy for Tala Ash and Merjan Nishat for English. Again, that's personally my favorite play this season. However, I do think that they're going to end up splitting the votes. Plus, their show is no longer running on Broadway. But that being said, my winner picks show is not running on Broadway anymore either, and that is Jessica Hecht for Eureka Day. Kara Young came very close, and I'm still sort of playing with this decision. I'd be happy for either of these actors to win. The deciding factor for me here between the two of these performers is that Kara Young literally just won the Tony for Pearly Victorious last year, so I'm going to go with Jessica Hecht. She had a very difficult role to play with her character being an anti-vaxxer, but I think she approached it with such nuance and such balance that I'd really like to see her win this category. I thought she was phenomenal. Next up, Best Direction of a Musical: Sahim Ali for Buena Vista Social Club, Michael Arden for Maybe Happy Ending, David Cromer for Dead Outlaw, Christopher Gattelli for Death Becomes Her, and Jamie Lloyd for Sunset Boulevard. What I appreciate the most about Jamie Lloyd's Sunset Boulevard is that he has such a strong vision. He does something totally different than other directors have done with this piece in the past, and I think it really works. I love the fact that when you see Sunset Boulevard on Broadway, it very much feels like you are seeing the most immersive movie you have ever seen. So I want to celebrate that. That being said, there was some stuff that lacked clarity there. So I think with that lack of clarity, I'm going to take Jamie Lloyd out. I do think he's going to win. I think it's between him and Michael Arden. But I'm personally going to give my vote to David Cromer for Dead Outlaw. I thought his direction was really special here. I think he nailed the vibe of being at this sort of like underground basement house concert, and it's very chill and the atmosphere is very casual. And then the way he staged the story of Elmer McCurdy around the band who is telling his story, I thought was very clever. And I have to admit, I'm a little bit salty because the lighting designer of the show did not get nominated. So if I can at least award one person for how the show looks, I'm happy to give it to David Cromer. Michael Arden was a close call for me. He did a phenomenal job there as well. The world building was excellent. I wouldn't be surprised if he were to win this category. One of these three, Michael Arden, David Cromer, Jamie Lloyd, I'd be very happy to see win this category. Okay, best direction of a play, Nud Adams for English, Sam Mendes for The Hills of California, Sam Pinkleton for Oh Mary, Danya Taymor for John Proctor is the Villain, and Kip Williams for The Picture of Dorian Gray, which I have not seen, so I can't speak to his work. I do think it's really between Sam Pinkleton and Danya Taymor, but Danya Taymor just won last year for The Outsiders, so I think Sam Pinkleton is going to win. However, I personally am going to give my vote to Nud Adams for English. I really wanted to give English something because I love the show so much and I like the ideas that it explored. So Nud Adams is going to get my vote. I was between Nud Adams and Sam Mendes. Again, Hills of California was incredible and I thought brilliantly directed as well. But I have The Hills of California in mind for some other awards coming up, so we will get to those. Let's move on to Best Choreography. Joshua Burgos for Smash, Camille A. Brown for Gypsy, Christopher Gattelli for Death Becomes Her, Jerry Mitchell for Boop the Musical, and Patricia Delgado and Justin Peck for Buena Vista Social Club. I think that this category really narrows down to Christopher Gattelli for Death Becomes Her and Patricia Delgado and Justin Peck for Buena Vista Social Club. I liked Christopher Gattelli's choreography a lot for Death Becomes Her, but I loved the choreography in Buena Vista Social Club. It had such great energy. It was exciting to watch. It was effortlessly sexy. So I'm going to give it to Patricia Delgado and Justin Peck for Buena Vista Social Club. Best Book of a Musical, Buena Vista Social Club by Marco Ramirez, Dead Outlaw by Itmar Moses, Death Becomes Her by Marco Panette, Maybe Happy Ending by Will Aronson and Hugh Park, Operation Mincemeat by David Cumming, Felix Hagen, Natasha Hodgson, and Zoe Roberts. I'm going to give it to Maybe Happy Ending by Will Aronson and Hugh Park. I thought that the original concept that they came up with was excellent. And I thought that the world building was so effortlessly worked into the script and didn't come across as exposition. So I want them to win this category. But can they win this next category? Best Original Score, Dead Outlaw by David Yazbek and Eric De La Pena, Death Becomes Her by Julia Mattison and Noel Carey, Maybe Happy Ending by Will Aronson and lyrics by Will Aronson and Hugh Park, Operation Mincemeat by David Cumming, Felix Hagen, Natasha Hodgson, and Zoe Roberts, and Real Women Have Curves, the musical by Joy Huerta and Benjamin Velez. I'm so happy to see that Joy Huerta and Benjamin Velez were nominated here. I love the music they came up with for Real Women Have Curves. I don't think it's going to win here, unfortunately. I'm deciding to go with David Yazbek and Eric De La Pena. I really like the songs in Dead Outlaw. I think that they were the right mix of progressing the story and also ear-catching. So I'm going to go with them. I'm happy with that choice. Next, we're doing Best Orchestrations. Andrew Resnick and Michael Thurber for Just in Time, Will Aronson for Maybe Happy Ending, Bruce Coughlin for Floyd Collins, Marco Puglia for Buena Vista Social Club, David Cullen and Andrew Lloyd Webber for Sunset Boulevard. I'm going to give it to Marco Puglia. In my opinion, you go to Buena Vista Social Club for the music and the story is sort of secondary, but I thought it sounded incredible in the theater, so I'm happy for that to take the win here. Next, we're doing Best Scenic Design of a Play. Marcia Ginsburg for English, Rob Howell for The Hills of California, Marge Horwell and David Bergman for The Picture of Dorian Gray, Miriam Boother and 59 for Stranger Things, The First Shadow, Scott Pask for Goodnight and Good Luck. My vote is going to Rob Howell for The Hills of California. That set was incredible. I loved it so much because the house that the show takes place in, it felt haunted not by spirits and ghosts, but by painful memories. You noticed it just by looking at the set. So I would love to see Rob Howell win for this category. Best Scenic Design of a Musical. Rachel Hawk, Swept Away, Dane Laffrey and George Reeve for Maybe Happy Ending, Arnolfo Maldonado for Buena Vista Social Club, Derek McLean for Death Becomes Her, and Derek McLean for Just in Time, which I have not seen, but I can judge his work on Death Becomes Her. It's Maybe Happy Ending. Dane Laffrey and George Reeve did an incredible job at realizing that world, and it just is beautiful. It's a set that I would love to run around and explore, so it's getting my vote here. Moving on to Best Costume Design of a Play. Brenda Abandondolo for Goodnight and Good Luck, Marge Horwell for The Picture of Dorian Gray, Rob Howell for The Hills of California, Holly Pearson for Oh Mary, and Bridget Reifenstuhl for Stranger Things The First Shadow. I would like Bridget to win here. The costumes really stuck out to me for Stranger Things. I think that they can take these costumes and put them in the TV show if they ever were to do a flashback episode that took place in the end of the 1950s. So I think Bridget did a really great job and should win this category. Best Costume Design of a Musical, Didi Ayite for Buena Vista Social Club, Greg Barnes for Boop the Musical, Clint Ramos for Maybe Happy Ending, Paul Tazwell for Death Becomes Her, and Catherine Zuber for Just in Time. I'm kind of sad that Alejo Viete is not here. I really like the costumes in Smash. They were a highlight of that production, but they're not here, so I'm going to give it to Paul Tazwell for Death Becomes Her. I was a little mixed on the costumes there, but after all, a lot of the costumes were built with practical effects in mind, and I think that Paul Tazwell is having a phenomenal year for awards. He's a great choice to win this category this year. Best Lighting Design of a Play, Natasha Chivers for The Hills of California, John Clark for Stranger Things The First Shadow, Heather Gilbert and David Bengali for Good Night and Good Luck, Natasha Kotz and Hannah Wazilski for John Proctor is the Villain, and Nick Schleiper for The Picture of Dorian Gray. I'm glad to see Heather Gilbert is here because, spoiler, she is not included in Best Lighting Design of a Musical, even though I think that she should be for Dead Outlaw, but I have not seen Good Night and Good Luck, so I can't speak to the lighting there. I'm going to give it to Natasha Chivers for The Hills of California. The lighting there was beautiful, and I think, like I said about the set feeling haunted with painful memories, the lighting really helped with this as well. So I hope Natasha Chivers wins. Best Lighting Design of a Musical, Jack Knowles for Sunset Boulevard, Tyler Michelow for Buena Vista Social Club, Scott Zielinski and Roy Horn-Sun, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, for Floyd Collins, Ben Stanton for Maybe Happy Ending, and Justin Townsend for Death Becomes Her. So I'm going to give my vote to Jack Knowles for Sunset Boulevard. I think Jack had a very difficult job because he not only had to light for theater, but also had a light for film. And I think it paid off in the best way. It looked beautiful no matter on stage or off stage. And for a show that has no set at all, to get that same feeling of being in awe, I think is in large part to Jack Knowles' work. Best Sound Design of a Play, Paul Arditi for Stranger Things The First Shadow, Palmer Hefferon for John Proctor is the Villain, Daniel Kluger for Good Night and Good Luck, Nick Powell for The Hills of California, and Clements Williams for The Picture of Dorian Gray. I want Nick Powell to win. I'm going to give him my vote. Again, the set design, the lighting, and now the sound, they all played so well together to make the space feel lived in and a little bit haunted. And I just thought it was beautiful. Also, the scene with Joan's entrance in Act 3, I think a lot of the impact of that is because of Nick Powell and the song that was chosen. I still get chills thinking about it. So Nick Powell for the win here. And finally, we have Best Sound Design of a Musical, Jonathan Deans for Buena Vista Social Club, Adam Fisher for Sunset Boulevard, Peter Hylenski for Just in Time, Peter Hylenski for Maybe Happy Ending, and Dan Moses Schreier for Floyd Collins. This is another category where I think Dead Outlaw was robbed, specifically Kai Harada for their sound design. That show would be getting my vote if it was here. I think Dan Moses Schreier did a fantastic job with the echo of the cave, and when Jeremy Jordan was harmonizing with himself, I thought that was so beautiful. But I'm going to give it to Adam Fisher for Sunset Boulevard. I thought that the audio mix was perfect. It was the first time in a while that I really felt like the music consumed me. It was like listening to the cast recording, but you're right there. Like the mix was that good. So I'm happy to see Adam Fisher win this category. So that is how I would be voting if I was an official Tony voter. But again, I am not. But who are your winner picks? I would love to read those thoughts in the comment section below. I would also really appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to check out some of my other reviews and theater related content on my channel. Thank you for watching. Thank you for 400 subscribers, and remember to stay off of your phone while at the theater.